Coming up, the Thunder run up the score in the Knicks, and the Timberwolves get past the Cavs on the road. This is Locked On Game to Game NBA.
Every game, every team, every angle. Locked On Game to Game, your team every day.
Welcome in. You're listening to Locked On Game to Game NBA. I'm your host, Kainani Stevens. Thank you for making Locked On your first listen every single weekday. We have our Locked On hosts here. They are ready to recap all of the action for you across the NBA. We start out with the Thunder, who shot the lights out at Madison Square Garden on Sunday. They dropped 145 points on the Knicks. Locked On Thunder and Locked On Knicks detail this one from the winning and losing side.
Are you kidding me? The Oklahoma City Thunder got a massive win on the road against the New York Knicks. They now have a 2-game winning streak, and Josh Giddey has played 2 games in Madison Square Garden his entire career. And in those 2 games, he has 2 triple-doubles, joining Wilt Chamberlain as the only player in NBA history to go 2 for 2 in MSG with a triple-double in each game. SGA dropped 37 points thanks to a 21-point third quarter outburst. I'm Raylan Stiles, host of Locked On Thunder, and the question to can SGA and Josh Giddey work as a pairing seems like a resounding yes after these last few games. The Thunder are getting shooting on the margin from their other players, and next year they're going to add Chet Holmgren to this roster, who, by the way, shot 40% from 3 in college. So with shooting around them, they are so talented, SGA and Josh Giddey are, that they can thrive as a duo. Learn more on Locked On Thunder.
The Knicks score a team record 48 points in the first quarter and yet somehow lose to the Oklahoma City Thunder by 10. Alex Wolf from Locked On Knicks here. A lot of great things for the Knicks on offense in this game, but an absolutely pathetic showing on the defensive end, scoring 48 points in the first quarter only to cede 43 to the Thunder in the second and third quarters, ultimately getting buried in this game and allowing them to score almost 150 points. This all comes back to the head coach, Tom Thibodeau. It's time to go. You're a defensive coach, allegedly, and your team just gave up 145 at home after scoring 48 in the first quarter. The team isn't playing for him anymore. They haven't been playing for him since last season, if we're being completely honest, and he's been given a long enough leash at this point. He shouldn't leave MSG with a job today.
2 is indeed better than 1. Darius Garland scored 51 points for Cleveland last night, but Karl-Anthony Towns and D'Angelo Russell combined for 59, and they got the win as well. Locked On Cavs and Locked On Wolves break it all down for us.
Hey, Chris Manning and Evan Damler here after the Cavs lost to the Timberwolves 129-124 on Sunday in Cleveland. Darius Garland did have 51, making him the first player in the NBA this year to score 50 or more points in a game. But Evan, the Cavs gave up 40 points in the first quarter, missed 12 free throws in a game that they were down a lot by, but could have won late with better execution early on.
Yeah, it's a little unfortunate. If it wasn't for Darius Garland missing a defensive rebound opportunity and the Timberwolves getting it back, and maybe this game would have swung a different way, or if Kevin Love didn't turn over the ball in the closing moments. Alas, 4 losses in a row for Cleveland. And if you're the Cavaliers right now, you're kind of killing yourselves after this one, because it was easily within reach after, like you said, giving up 40 points in the first quarter.
No Donovan Mitchell in this one either. No Jared Allen in this one. No Dean Wade. So the Cavs go in not at optimal depth. Tough loss, though. Next up, Giannis and the Bucks on Wednesday in Milwaukee. For more, check out Locked On Cavs wherever you get podcasts.
The Minnesota Timberwolves beat the shorthanded Cleveland Cavaliers on Sunday evening. I'm Ben Beacon with Locked On Wolves, and the Cavs may not have had Donovan Mitchell or Jared Allen, but the Timberwolves will take it any way they can get it. Losers of 6 of their last 7 games coming into this one and starting a long road trip, or I guess game 2 of a long road trip. The Wolves led by as many as 24 points to the Cavs before Darius Garland was absolutely on fire late and pulled the Cavs to just 1 possession late in this game. And the Wolves, they had a hand in giving up this massive lead, but this was more about Garland's shot making. The Wolves generally played much better defense in this game up until Garland's dominance in the fourth quarter. D'Angelo Russell had 15 of his 30 points on the night in the first quarter. He also was solid down the stretch offensively. Karl-Anthony Towns had a good all-around game. And the name of the game here was simply breaking the losing streak, and the Wolves did just that in this one. We'll break it all down on Locked On Wolves. Make sure to subscribe to Locked On Wolves for all things Timberwolves.
Coming up, the Red Hot Jazz finally hit a wall. This is Locked On Game to Game NBA. This edition of the Locked On Game to Game is brought to you by LinkedIn Jobs. These days, every new potential hire can feel like a high stakes wager for your small business. You want to be 100% certain that you have access to the best qualified candidates that are available. That's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the right people for your team faster and for free. I know when I apply to jobs, I always check LinkedIn because I feel like it's really easy for people that are hiring to see my credentials from my resume and what I've done, so they know if that I might be the right person to fit into that role. It's an easy way to apply to jobs, and I'm sure it's an easy way to hire as well. So LinkedIn Jobs helps you find those qualified candidates you want to talk to faster. If you post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedonnba, that's linkedin.com/lockedonnba to post your job for free. Terms and conditions do apply. Welcome back to Locked On Game to Game NBA. I'm your host, Kainani Stevens. Thank you for making Locked On your first listen every weekday. The Grizzlies put up a good fight, but when you're without your top two scorers, it's hard to win basketball games. Locked On Grizzlies recaps a predictable loss for Memphis.
Surely you weren't expecting the Memphis Grizzlies to find a way to win this basketball game against the Washington Wizards, were you? If you were thinking that was the case, I have a landline phone and an AOL.com membership to sell you. I'm Joe Monax of Locked On Grizzlies, and if you're missing your three best basketball players, chances are you're not going to be able to beat most teams in the National Basketball Association. That's exactly what happened in this game. No Ja Morant, no Desmond Bane, no Jaren Jackson Jr. They all were out, and yet people hopefully somewhere along the lines had some glorious dream of a Grizzlies upset. This was the Wizards game for the taking, and the Wizards did that. They did what they were supposed to do. They had a successful outing. The Grizzlies did not. Anytime Dillon Brooks is your number one scoring option, anytime Brandon Clark struggles the way he did, having to do more than he's able to, you are going to lose if you're the Memphis Grizzlies.
The Utah Jazz had absolutely no shot at a win with the numbers Joel Embiid put up on Sunday. He scored a career-high 59 points while stuffing the rest of the stat sheet as well. Locked On Jazz explains why Utah had no answer for the 76ers.
The Utah Jazz end their road trip with a 2-game losing streak tonight because of a historic performance by Joel Embiid. David Locke with the Jazz. The Jazz tried what they could against Embiid, but frankly, he was just too much. A once-in-a-lifetime performance. 59 points, 11 rebounds, 8 assists, 7 blocks, a box score line that's never been done in NBA history. And frankly, the only people ever with 19 field goals, 20 free throws, and 10 rebounds are Wilt Chamberlain on his 100-point game and Michael Jordan in March of 1990. The Jazz actually lose this game as much, though, because of their offense. They scored just 41 points in the second half as Philadelphia's Tyrese Maxey, DeAnthony Melton, and Matisse Thybulle were defensive stalwarts against Mike Conley and Jordan Clarkson, and the Jazz guard line just could not get going. The Sixers' offense of the night, it was actually just average. Joel Embiid was anything but.
The Golden State Warriors remain winless on the road this season after falling to the Kings in Sacramento. Locked On Warriors tells us what stopped the reigning champs this time around.
The Golden State Warriors remain winless on the road to start the season. I'm Cyrus Sautzes with your Locked On Warriors Locked On Now recap of the defending world champions losing at Golden One Center to the Sacramento Kings, 122-115. Turnovers were a huge part of the story tonight, with the Warriors turning the ball over 18 times, resulting in 26 points for the Kings, who are now 6-6 on the year. The third quarter, once a staple of Warriors' greatness, hasn't been kind to the defending champs so far this season. They've been outscored in the third quarter in 5 of the team's first 13 games, including tonight, where they were outscored 34-29. Stephen Curry had another solid performance, scoring 27 points, grabbing 6 boards. But the Kings head coach Mike Brown started double and triple teaming Steph in the fourth quarter, and Steph's supporting cast could not deliver. The Warriors dropped to 5-8 on the year and play the second of a back-to-back tomorrow when they host the San Antonio Spurs at Chase Center. Kylan Mills joins me tomorrow to break it all down. Follow the program on Twitter at Locked On Dubs.
The two most dysfunctional teams in the NBA met on Sunday night. The Nets traveled to Los Angeles to take on LeBron James and the Lakers. Our Locked On Nets and Locked On Lakers hosts tell us who won that matchup that had a ton of star power, but not a lot of wins to match.
Well, that's simply not how you want the back half of a back-to-back to go. Adam Armick with the Locked On Nets podcast, and the Brooklyn Nets accomplished what you would think on paper was the harder of the two matchups, taking care of the Clippers on Saturday night and then falling a bit flat against the Lakers on Sunday. Of course, this is a game where you're still missing key contributors, rest days for some guys coming back from injury, Kyrie Irving on the suspension, perimeter looks aren't quite falling, Kevin Durant looks like he's losing steam in the fourth quarter, and of course, Anthony Davis is just doing work on the interior. All of those excuses fall by the wayside when you're playing this year's Los Angeles Lakers. You want to be good enough. You want to be able to beat up on the bad teams. Thankfully, 4-3 here to start November. It feels like the Brooklyn Nets have gotten some of that good vibe and good energy back inside of their organization. But darn it, you would have loved to have had one more feather in your cap before continuing on the West Coast trip with the Kings and the Trailblazers. You can, of course, see myself and Doug Norrie break down this game and all of the Nets action right here on the Locked On Nets podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network.
This is Danny Kamenetsky, co-host of the Locked On Lakers podcast, and the Lakers win 116-103 over the Nets, snapping a 5-game losing streak. No LeBron in this game, still nursing that strained groin. The Lakers have until Friday before he possibly plays again. A lot of days to rest, and with LeBron out, several Lakers stepped up in his absence. Lonnie Walker, the fourth, Austin Reeves, 12 assists from Russell Westbrook, some nice moments from Wenyen Gabriel, but nobody was bigger than Anthony Davis. 37 points, 15 of 25 from the field, 7 of 7 at the line, 18 rebounds, 10 on the offensive glass. To put this in perspective, Brooklyn had just 8 offensive rebounds in the game. And from start to finish, Anthony Davis was dominant in ways that the Lakers need him to be even when LeBron eventually returns. A lot more to get into, so make sure that you are subscribing to the Locked On Lakers YouTube channel and that you're making Locked On Lakers your first listen wherever you get your podcasts.
That's all for today on Locked On Game to Game NBA. Thank you for making Locked On your first listen every single weekday. Make sure you subscribe to Locked On NBA and your team's Locked On podcast, both on YouTube and wherever else you get your podcasts from. I'm Kainani Stevens. This has been Locked On Game to Game.